down gingerly for this episode because I just had 4 hernias repaired and stayed overnight in the hospital and had to wear this damn thing, except they gave me one that was one size too small. And yeah, it wasn't a very pleasant overnight stay. When I kept bitching about it, finally at 3 o'clock in the morning, they came up with one that actually fit me. Yes, I am that well hung. So anyway, that's beside the point. Being that I'm also been barred from Facebook for 30 days for posting an opinion, I haven't been able to reach out. Nobody's been able to reach out to me. But for those of you who did, thank you very much. Especially thank you to my good friends, the Mummy and the Monkey, who got me to the hospital and got me out of there and made sure I was still breathing when I got back here. So my sincere thanks to them and some other friends, Rick Bubb and John Schatzer and people like that reached out and tried to help me. So anyway, I've actually been too, for lack of better words, not really in pain, just rough getting around with this shit. I haven't taken any painkillers or anything, but I figured I'd do an episode because I was watching some wrestling the other night, and some old school stuff came to mind. When people actually, without a doubt, 90% of the people who watched wrestling back in the day believed it was real. It was the era of kayfabe. You didn't let any secrets out. And one thing was that the fans that absolutely positively bought it could be brutal to the heels, the bad guys. There were many instances of the bad guys being attacked on their way back and forth from the ring. Some of the old school guys used to even carry guns in their gym bags just to make sure they could get out of the building in one piece. There's an infamous clip up on YouTube of Ox Baker beating up Ernie Ladd in Cleveland, and the crowd is coming closer and closer to the ring, and supposedly Ernie is looking up at Ox going, "Ox, stop, the natives are getting restless." Knox keeps on doing this. Of course, a riot ensues and that. The other thing, the one thing was, where I lived in the New York area, the ethnic champs were the kings. Bruno Sammartino, Pedro Morales. Those were the 2 guys that were basically the title holders when I first started watching it. So, you know, I'm not going to break any new ground here because Bruno's already spoken at this in interviews that basically he held the belt for so long, he got to the point that he was beat up and he wanted to take time off. And his hand-picked successor was the Russian Bear Ivan Koloff, who basically would be considered a transitional champion because Bruno lost it at the Garden 1 month and Pedro Morales won it at the Garden at the next show. So when they wanted Bruno back in, they didn't want to put Morales against Sammartino because it was 2 fan favorites. I think they actually did it and ended in a draw because if either one of them won, there would have been a riot breaking out. That's how much, people bought it. So the interesting thing was, Bruno had trained a lot of guys, got a lot of guys into the business. Johnny Valiant was one of them, J.J. Dillon was another of them, and his protege was a wrestler named Larry Whistler, who became Larry Zbyszko. So he was basically Bruno's protege, and, he went everywhere that Bruno went. Little Italy, the McMahons, dinners out after the shows, things like that. So the tried and true thing in wrestling was basically to have the up-and-coming wrestler turn on his mentor. And this was brought up to Larry, and Bruno said, "Do you really want to do this?" And he goes, "Because once you do this, pretty much you're going to have a shitload of heat on you." So they went through the whole thing, and basically, Zbyszko came out as a humble guy, wanted to challenge Bruno to a match on TV, scientific match, hold for hold, whatever. So they go through this on TV, and Zbyszko's getting frustrated because Bruno keeps getting the upper hand. So, to cut to the chase, basically, Zbyszko grabs a chair, cracks Bruno over the head with it, draws blood, and the feud is on. Well, hold on a sec. What do you want? You want to go somewhere? She keeps pushing at my wound, which isn't good. So what happened was this was going to be a huge, huge big money feud. and would also establish Zbyszko as like the ultimate heel. So they decided to have this feud in a steel cage at Shea Stadium. I remember it back then. It was a huge, huge crowd. And basically, Bruno beat the shit out of Larry and walked out of the cage. I stress, walked out of the cage. He never pinned Larry in the cage. He walked out. Bruno also had told Larry, you know, we were considering like letting you win. And Larry said, well, what happened? He goes, honestly, we didn't think you'd get back to the dugout alive. Somebody would have killed you. That's how potent this whole mix was. So anyway, you know, Larry became like the consummate heel. He was in a battle royal at Madison Square Garden where basically everybody wanted to fucking kill him because of the Bruno thing. He never got in the ring. He stayed on the ring apron. When anybody went to grab him, he dropped off. So basically, he was the last guy in the ring and tossed the other guys out, so he won the battle royal. Actually, George Steele did the same thing, only George hid under the ring during the whole thing, then came in and killed the last two guys and threw them over the top rope. That's how it was back in the 70s. But anyway, Bruno was sort of being phased out, and he knew it, and he told Larry, he goes, you know, they are going to mess with you. And he goes, you know, I don't know how long you're going to be able to stay around. He goes, they're going to job you out. They're going to make you lose. So he goes, just remember one thing. And he goes, a lot of the old school guys will respect this, that I never pin you. So Zbyszko said in an interview that basically he'd show up the arena and the guy would come out, you're going to do the job for so-and-so tonight. And he'd look at the promoter and go, well, why would you want me to do that when, you know, Bruno never pinned me? Why are you going to let this guy pin me when, you know, Bruno never pinned me? So he basically used that, you know, get it over for a while. And, you know, sooner or later he got phased out. He wound up, I believe, going to the AWA and marrying the promoter's daughter, Vernyanya's daughter, where, you know, again, he played the chicken shit heel up there for years, feuded on the independent circuit with San Martino's son David for a while, and then, you know, was in TNA, and I guess he's retired now. Fortunately, Bruno died about 4 years ago, I believe, lived to be about 82. Another great guy, great legend, and I was lucky enough to meet him at a convention. He was a very considerate man, very nice guy to talk to, got my picture taken with him and everything, so it was all cool. So that's when people actually believed, you know, they believed it was real, and to a certain extent it was real, because even The Undertaker said in an interview right after he retired, he goes, back when I first started, you had a bunch of crusty guys roaming around with knives and guns in their bags that didn't take any shit. And he goes, now you got a bunch of guys sitting around playing video games. But, you know, it's a whole different era from then and now, because, you know, you look at the old school stuff and sometimes it got out of hand, and, you know, but it was more, you know, I guess, for the lack of better words, more believable back then. So we'll talk more about this down the road. So, again, it's 42nd Street Pete. Got my second shot, got out of surgery, but we're still not out of the woods, so please take precautions, mask up, stay safe. Thanks for tuning in, thanks for subscribing, and we'll see you when I feel like waddling in here again. I'm out of here.